Joe, welcome back to BetMGM tonight. Let's just cut right to the chase because there's only one game that I remotely care about this week in the world of college football. I'm throwing a party here at Casa de Evans. I got to go to Benny's Beverage Depot, stock up on Moss Tequila and all kinds of exotic beverages because my ILL are going on a road trip to Bloomington, Indiana, and a colossal game with some college football playoff implications. Right now, Illinois is catching a boatload of points. Here's what the line movement has done over the last about 72 hours. Illinois opened as a 3-point underdog. Then about 24 hours later, it jumped to 4.5. And then today, it jumped again. Illinois now catching 6 on the road against IU. We're not talking about basketball, folks. Again, we're talking about action on the gridiron. Joe, where would you stack your greenbacks in Illinois, Indiana? Are the Illini plus the points a strong fade or firm follow? There's only one answer.
I found it, I'll be very careful about answering this question. I found it kind of funny that this line's moving as much as. I have to also say, by the way, I'm very disappointed that College Game Day is not going to be in Bloomington for this game because this is the most intriguing matchup of the week. I know that there's some other ranked matchups and you get the Miami-Florida rivalry happening, but come on. We get a chance to find out which team is the most legit. Now, I have to be I have to crush your hopes here, though. I like Indiana to cover the 5.5 for what I had it at when I put money down on it. And the reason why, there is a separation between these two teams in terms of their explosiveness. Now, I get it. Indiana hasn't played anyone, and they're just smoking their way through a comically easy schedule. So they haven't really been challenged. But when we look at who they have, we got Omar Cooper, we've got Elijah Surratt, and more importantly, we have Fernando Mendoza, who I love as a quarterback. He was one of my favorite prospects coming into this season for the 2026 NFL Draft. I think he's got the goods, and I think he's already showing us that he has the tools to be a first-round pick. I think in a matchup like this where you're going up against a challenging defense, but one that gave up a lot of passing yards to Darian Mensah, that they could end up getting enough just late big plays that they win by a touchdown. Don't think this game ends up being lopsided. Don't think it ends up being a blowout. I think both these teams are super evenly matched. But I think that what it comes down to is we get one splash play from this Indiana squad, and that's how they win and they cover.
Joe, first game I want to ask you about this weekend, really underrated slate in my opinion. Potential Big Ten championship preview as we get Utah at home. It was 3.5. Now we're back down to 3 against Texas Tech. I know there's a lot of love for Tech, but I can't bet against Utah at home, and I love Devin Dampier. Where are you at on this game, though?
Admittedly, this is like one of the few games that I've put in my bucket of I don't want to touch it, and it's for a couple of the reasons that you just brought up there. You've got Utah at home. That's already a non-starter. That automatically should be the non-starter of it is a void that people step into and they do not come out alive. It is so hard and so tough to win in that Utah stadium. They are so great with the altitude that they have on their side of making things difficult. You just mentioned there, though, with Devin Dampier, who he is a really impactful runner. He has boosted this offense. He has created rushing production for this team. Most importantly, they've got 2 of the best offensive tackles, arguably the best offensive tackle tandem in the country with Spencer Fano and Caleb Loma. I love their defense as well. Kyle Whittingham's defense has been as stout as it's typically been, but neither of these teams have played anyone. They're in the bottom quartile of their strength of schedule and who they've gone up against. On top of this, and then the reason why I'm a little bit apprehensive about it is I think that Texas Tech, they're on this path and they're showing that they have so much juice. I think that Baron Morton has been so great, and he has been really taking the step necessary for this Texas Tech team to win the Big 12 championship. So I'm a little bit off on this one, but I'm thinking taking Texas Tech to cover because maybe there's a shot that they lose this thing by a point or they lose by 2.
See, that's why I really wanted the 3.5, man, but I was like, I can't bet against Utah. I love this team. I took a little stab on Dampier's Heisman price at a much better price. And, but, you know, I can make the case for Tech because I'm with you, man. That team could win double-digit games, and they pumped a lot of money into this year. The other game I want to ask you about, Arizona State, Baylor. Baylor's actually a 2.5-point favorite in this game at home. Any bets for you? And if you had to pick, where would you go?
I like Baylor in this situation, and I think that right now we're starting to see with this Baylor Arizona State game that, or this matchup specifically, that Baylor is going to get a chance to really flex their passing prowess. We saw Blake Shapen have success and have an ability for Mississippi State to move the ball on that very shaky Arizona State secondary. They had a lot of issues, and they were supposed to be a strength of that team, but outside of Keith Abney, they have a number of situations on film where they're getting lost in coverage. They're blowing assignments. It was the game-losing play for them against Mississippi State. So I think that Sawyer Robertson, who's a top 10 quarterback in the country, who is a very dynamic, decisive, aggressive passer with the tools to attack tight windows, this is a chance for him to go over 400 yards and have a crazy big game. Maybe he doesn't go over 400, but I think that Baylor has the goods in a matchup like this to end up winning, or at the very least to cover.
We're talking to Joe Deleone, host of Rufino and Joe Show. Give him a follow on X. An awesome follow at that, at Joe Deleone. Again, on X, at Joe Deleone. Joe Horvat has implored listeners, including me, to follow him on Duke one more stinking time. The Blue Devils are favored by a field goal home against NC State. Do you believe Horvat's advice, Manny Diaz's bunch, is warranted, or is he washed again?
Oh, man, I got to be honest. I'm in the same bucket here where I have been hurt too many times. I bet on them against Tulane last week, and this was one of my many misses, and I was so frustrated that they couldn't get the job done. I gotta go with NC State in the situation. I know that the 3.5 or the 3 points that they're catching in this spot is not a ton, but CJ Bailey's a great quarterback and he's done some really underrated things. I think right now we're seeing that this Duke squad, despite having some quality defensive players, they're not up to par with what Manny Diaz typically has with his defenses. They're undergoing a lot of issues, and I think that there's a chance that they could get caught off guard once again. I'm in my spot where I'm almost hating on Duke because they have wronged me so much during the season.
Yeah, look, we've all made those unwanted donations to BetMGM here over the last couple of weeks because Duke just cannot get the job done. Joe got two more quick ones for you. Give us another favorite Week 4 play that immediately grabbed your attention, whether side or total. So pick your poison.
So the Week 4 play that I'm liking the most, I like Nebraska money line. I like taking them plus odds money line to win this game at home. They are an underdog going up against Michigan. I know that Nebraska hasn't been good recently. I get it. They have not been a team that has lived up to their typical historic expectations, but I think that this is the year where that home environment is going to be rocking. I think that this Cornhusker fan base realizes that this is their shot. I also think that Dylan Raiola has not been getting any of the love that he deserves to this point. Everybody's talking about, was talking about Arch Manning. They were talking about DJ Lagway coming into the year. No one talked about Dylan Raiola, and he has been phenomenal. I think that if he gets opportunities to in this game against tough defense to make a couple of big plays, they win this ball game, and they win it at home. And the last part, as I mentioned, the setting, I have made the mistake of ignoring this. I'm not going to anymore. Freshmen, new quarterbacks going into a difficult road situation, I am going to bet against that young quarterback. I think that this is a real shot for Nebraska to start to establish themselves.
Yeah, all like 250,000 people that live in Lincoln, I think are going to be jam-packed into that stadium for that one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that is an accurate assessment. I'm going to be backing you on the Huskers taking down the Wolverines this week as well. We had some breaking news just a few minutes ago about the spring transfer portal that's going to be altered and shut down. We don't know exactly what parameter in terms of the dates will be. I'm guessing right before or right after the spring games happen. But what were your immediate takeaways as we're learning more about this developing story?
Yeah, I think that this is necessary for fixing the sport. I think that there were a lot of poorly thought out and poorly planned parameters just around player movement. And I think that we're slowly getting there to figuring this out. The first step was picking the right time frame for doing the winter portal and now getting rid of the spring one. The spring one was an issue really so much so that it allowed for teams to evaluate spring games and to evaluate what they were hearing about certain players maybe not fitting in the depth chart properly, and then enticing players on other rosters to enter the portal and come play for them. I think it's better for the sport that guys stick around and they stay. It gives players a chance, if they think that they want to leave when they do. And I know that certain guys academically will not be given much of a shot that they'll be able to leave in the winter. They're just going to have to wait. Having the spring portal, I think, allowed for an increase in the imbalance in power in the sport. So getting to a more direct and more simplified process is just going to make things better. We're still not there yet, but this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it tightens the window, and that definitely needed to happen. You make a decision, you stand by that decision, and you ride that through the spring instead of getting poached by somebody else that comes in and be like, hey, buddy, I got a fat bag. You interested? Come on, pal, and play for us. I mean, that was happening too much. So, yeah, I think that will clean up all of those predicaments that have been popping up here last couple of years. Awesome stuff from Joe Deleone, as always, on his weekly hit right here on BetMGM tonight. He is a host of Ruffino and Joe Show. Listen to that bad boy right now and follow him on X at Joe Deleone. Again, on X at Joe Deleone. Joe, we appreciate the time, and sadly, this just in. You're off the Evans Christmas list because you're going against my.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, when I'm wrong, we can celebrate it next Wednesday.
Yes. Amen. Mas tequila. I hope that does happen. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Guys.
All right, there he goes, Joe Deleone. He ain't afraid of the steam action in Illinois, Indiana. It's crazy to me. It's gone from 3 to 4.5 to 6. Horvat, do you think the line is done moving? Does it maybe regress? Does it climb further? Like, could this thing get to like 7.5 by kickoff?
I don't think so. I don't think we get to 7.5. If we did, I think there would be instant buyback on the Illini because, again, neither team is, now the data point I like the most is Illinois over Duke. But Indiana hasn't really played anybody. That said, though, like I said, man, they do have 3 200-yard rushers. I really like Surratt, who Joe brought up, and Mendoza's an absolute stud. It won't surprise me if he ends up being a first-round pick at the quarterback position. All these other guys have been busts this year, man. You didn't even bring up Cade Klubnik, who has also looked terrible. Yep. I think a lot of that has to do with Clemson's offensive line has really struggled, not only run blocking, but in pass protection. But Lagway was getting a bunch of hype. He threw 5 picks or whatever it was last week against LSU. Arch is terrible. Like, if you take away the last name Manning, if he's Arch Williams, I don't know that he's the starting quarterback right now at Rice. And I don't think that's a hot take, man. Arch, he had 10 straight incompletions. His home fans were booing him off the field. He's looked like nonsense. So that would be my concern, man. That Indiana offense is humming right now. The defense is good. Signetti could coach, but I do think the Illini are being a little undervalued, right? A lot of starters back from a team that won double-digit games last year.
Yeah, 18, including the entire secondary and entire offensive line. They got dudes. They got a lot of pros on that squad. They're going to be competitive. Real quick, Nebraska, are you going to fade or follow them? I'm 100% following. I think they knock off Michigan.
I completely agree with everything that Joe said. I'm on Nebraska. I did grab a 3 at -115 because I'm a coward, but Raiola's been great, and this really goes back to the final 3 games of last season when Dana Holgorsen took over as play caller. He hasn't thrown a pick yet this year. He's protecting the football. He's only been sacked a couple times. I do like Nebraska against Michigan.